Hello world, Julio here, and in today's video we're going to be creating a responsive layout for an image gallery using CSS Grid. I also added some hover effects, and as I mentioned, this will be fully responsive, so if we go into the responsive view, you'll notice that my content is going to adjust based on the width. Now you see that I have a different layout, and again, as I keep decreasing it, at about 600 pixels, all my images are going to be stacking on top of each other. So if you want to see more videos like this one, please make sure you subscribe and turn on bell notifications. I post videos every Sunday. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram for weekly updates, and I also have a Patreon account, so if you want to support me, I'd appreciate it. All the links are going to be in the description below. Now, let's jump right in. So for this particular project, we only need two documents. One is going to be for the HTML and the other one for the CSS. You'll also notice that I have an images folder with 8 images. I will include those in the description below. If you use Emmet to create a boilerplate, you can do it with an exclamation sign and then you hit tab. Now we can just go ahead and link to the style sheet. We are going to be bringing in the ion icons, so we want to open up the browser and then we want to do a Google search for ion icons, and it's going to be the first one. This is basically all the icons they have. But to get the link for the CDN, you have to go into usage, and then you want to scroll down to the bottom of the page and grab this link right here. This is also basic usage on how you can use the icons. So now that we have that, I can just close that, and then I can paste it on top of my style sheet. Now that we have everything we need, I can just minimize this and make this smaller as well so that I can have my project side by side. What we want to do now is go into the body and open up a div with the class container. Then we want to open up another div with the class of image gallery. Inside of the image gallery div, we want to have 8 different anchor tags. So since the other ones are going to be the same, I'll just do the markup for one, and then I'll copy and paste it down below and slightly modify it. So the first anchor tag is going to have the link. Actually, before we do the link, I have to give it a class, which is going to be img1. And now we can do the link. This is not gonna matter right now, but if you were to use one of those libraries such as Viget.js or Lightbox.js or Fancybox.js, this would be ideal because it's already all set up to be able to work with it. Although we're not going to be doing that in this video. We only want to focus on the layout. So this one is going to be going into the images folder, and what we want to pull is image 1. Then we want to go inside of the anchor tag and we want to use the eye, and we want to apply the class of icon. We also want to apply a secondary class of ion, MD, and then the icon name, which is going to be expand. And as you can see here, now we have the icon, and if we were to click on it, it's gonna take us to that particular image. The reason why you can't see an image right now is because we're going to be applying the thumbnails through background images in the CSS. So now that we have the first one, we can just go ahead and paste it down below 7 more times. So 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we can go ahead and slightly modify it. So the second one is going to be number 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, and we actually need one more. This one will be 8. And we have to do the same thing for the classes. So the second one is going to be img2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And this is going to be pretty much it for the HTML markup. The next step is to go into the CSS and start styling it. So as usual, we're going to be doing a basic reset, and it's going to be done on the margin. We're going to set it to 0, then the padding, and we want to set the box sizing to border box. We also want to do it on the before and after. Then what we want to do is select the HTML document, and I'll use a font family of Roboto since it's a really good font, and a fallback of sans serif. Keep in mind that I already have this font installed in my computer, which is why I don't need to use a link to import it. Then I'll use a font size of 10 pixels. Now I'll give the body some general styles, mostly because I want to be able to center my gallery right in the middle vertically and horizontally. So if you were to use this in the real world or in a real project, you would have to take into account for whichever particular container you're placing this gallery in. So the body is going to be pretty simple. I'll just give it a width of 100% and a height of 100 of the pupil height. I'm also going to be applying a background color of a light gray. Then I'll give it a display of flex. Now, normally to center this vertically and horizontally, you can do it with display flex and then just use justify content as well as align items. But I'll be doing it by just giving the container a margin of auto, and that's going to center it. So now we can just go ahead and style the container. And what we want to do here is give it a width of 100% as well. And then we want to give it a max width of 120 rem. Now, as I mentioned, to center it, we want to give it a margin of auto. Then what we want to do is actually give it some padding left and right of 1.5 rem. Now we can go ahead and style the image gallery div. So we're going to target the image gallery, and here we want to give it a display of grid. Then what we want to do is say grid template columns, and since we're going to be having 4, we can just do one fraction each. So we can do 1 FR, and then finally 1 FR. Then we want to target the grid template rows, and this we can just simply set it to auto. Now, something else that we want to do is target the grid template areas. But before we do that, I want to give it a grid gap. So we can just say that the grid gap is going to be 15 pixels. So we can do 1.5 rem. And now we can set up the grid template areas. But for now, we're not going to do anything because we still have to give each individual class for the anchor tags a name. So for now, I'll just comment this out and we'll come back to it in a bit. So the next step for us would be to target the image gallery anchor tag. And this would be general styles that will apply to every single one of them, as opposed to doing basically the same thing on each image item. So this is going to be a lot easier because it will allow us to basically not repeat ourselves. So we do image gallery A, and here I just want to give it a width of 100%, and I'll give it a height of 25 rem. Then what I want to do is apply some background properties. So the first one is going to be the background position, which will be center. Then the background repeat is going to set to no repeat. finally, we want to say the background cover size will be set to cover. We're also going to need a position of relative because we're going to be using position absolute on the pseudo element we'll create later, and we want it to be relative to this anchor tag. Then I want to make sure that I give it a position of flex because I want to align the icon right in the middle, both horizontally and vertically. So we'll do a display of flex and then align items center and then justify content center. And that's going to be pretty much it for that right now. The next step for us is to actually style the icon itself. So we can do again image gallery A and then the eye inside of it. I want to make sure that I give it a lighter color. So I'll do an RGBA of 255, which is going to be a white, and then we can say that the transparency will be 0.6. So as you can see now, we can barely see it. But as soon as we do the images in the background color for the pseudo element, we're going to be able to see them again. What we want to do next is give it a font size. Actually, since we can't see what is going on now, I'll just comment this out for now, and then we'll continue with the styles. So we'll do a font size of, let's do 3 rem. And as you can see, it also has a text decoration. So let's go back here to the anchor tag and say text decoration will be set to none. Then what we want to do here is go underneath and I'll give it a position of relative. Then, by the way, the reason why I'm giving it a position of relative is because I want to use a C index on it just to make sure that this will sit on top of the pseudo element that we will be creating shortly. So we can use a C index now, and I'll just say something like 100. I want to give it some padding, top and bottom of 1 rem and then 3 left and right. Once I do that, I want to create a border. So the border here will be 2 pixels, and it's going to be solid RGBA, and this will be again a white, and it's going to have the same transparency of 0.6 so that it is consistent. And now as you can see, you can barely see it. The next step is for us to give it a border radius. The border radius will be of 0.4 rem. Then what I want to do is give it an opacity of 0 because now we don't really want to see it. So I'll give it an opacity of 0 and then a transition, which is going to be on the opacity as well, of 0.5 seconds. For now, we still want to see it, so I'll just comment this out for now. And then later we can come back and uncomment this when we're ready. So now we're going to go ahead and create the pseudo element on the anchor tag. So we can say before, let's make sure we set the content to an empty string because if we don't, it's not going to show up. Then I'll give it a position of absolute. The width will be 100% and the height will be 100% as well. Then I'll give it a top of 0 and then a left of 0. Now I'll give it a background color. And again, it's going to be an RGBA because I want to see some transparency. This time it's going to be black and the transparency it's going to be set at 0.8. And now we can kind of see better what's going on in the background. So let's go ahead and uncomment this. So as you can see now it matches better. And we're going to be coming back to this in a bit. So let's not worry about it for now. After we have done the background color, we want to set the opacity here to 0 as well, because we don't want to see it unless we hover over it. Finally, we want to transition the opacity as well. And it's going to be over 0.5 seconds. So now what I'll do is just go ahead and uncomment this. And then what I'll do is just create the hover effect that will show it once we hover over each item. So the first one is going to be the image gallery. And then we can say that A, so when we hover over the anchor tag, we want to show the icon that's inside of it. And since these both share the same hover effect, we can just use them both together over here. So instead, I'll use a comma to separate it. And then here, I'll target the image gallery A again. And I want to say that when I hover it, and then the before pseudo element is going to get the following style, which is going to be the opacity, and we will set it to 1. So now, as you can see, when we hover over each item, we get a nice hover effect. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and style each individual image. So the first one that we want to target, of course, is going to be IMG1. And what we want to do here is say grid area. And what we want to do now is just give it a name. In this case, I'll use the same class name. So IMG1. Then I'll give it a background image. And we simply want to go into the images folder. And we want to grab the image 1. We still can't see it yet because we still have to set this up right here. As I mentioned, the grid template areas. But for now, we'll just focus on this. Now the other ones are going to be the exact same thing. So we can just copy and paste it down below and change it up. So this one will be IMG2. Again, we have to change the name for the grid area to match this one right here. And we want to switch up the image as well. Then paste it down below again. This one will be 3. 3. And then we want to switch the link to 3 as well. Then we want to do 4. And then we want to do 4 here as well. And let me just double check something over here before I move on. And yeah, that looks right. So we're going to keep going down. This one will be 5. And then this one will be 6. Now this one will be 7. And finally, number 8. So now that we have done that, we can go ahead and start with the layout. So this is going to be pretty simple. We can just scroll back up and let's uncomment out this grid template areas. So the layout from the demo had an image that would expand from here all the way down to the next row. And the way we're going to be doing that is by saying that the first item is going to be IMG1. Then the second one is going to be IMG2. So that's going to be in position number 2. And then this one will be IMG3. And then IMG3 as well. This one should be 3 because we want it to keep expanding. Then what we want to do is just copy this. I'm actually going to give it a space down. And then I can paste the next one. And here, like I mentioned, we want this image to expand to going down. So how we can do that is by saying, keep in mind that we gave this a height of 25 rem. So in order for this to take the next spot down, we have to basically say that we want to double this. So we also have to take into account the grid gap we have right here. So it's going to be, let me just scroll down to the first one right here. We can say that we have to give it a min height of, remember that we have to make it twice as big. So we had 25 rem. We have to say 50 rem now. But remember that I mentioned that you have to take into account for the grid gap as well. So the grid gap is 1.5 rem. So we can say 51.5 rem. And as you can see, it's now expanding too. This is going to look a lot better, obviously, on bigger screens. We're going to be sorting that out in a bit by using media queries. But for now, let's just focus on the main layout. So again, let's go back to the top so that we can continue doing the grid template areas. And here, what I'll say is for the second one, we can do 4. Then we can do 5. And finally, we can do 6. As you noticed before, 6 is also going to expand 2. So we can take care of that shortly. Again, let me just copy this, paste it down below so that we can just simply go ahead and modify it as we need. So for the third one, we can say that it's going to be image 7 right here. We want it to expand 2, so I'll do 7 here as well. And then this one is going to be 8. And this one can remain as 6. So as we did for this one right here, we also have to do it over here for image 6 as well. So let's just scroll down and find image 6 right here. And we can say that again, this one is going to have a min height of 51.5 rem. And this is going to be pretty much it for the first layout on larger screens. Now we will go and do media queries so that we can take care of how it looks on smaller devices. So if I go into my responsive view, and I'll basically scale this down until it no longer looks good. So if we keep going, I'll say that it looks just right here, but I think it would look better if I changed it up. So I'll say that at 900 pixels, I want to change how it looks. So let me just actually go back over here and let me make this smaller just so that we can kind of see what's going on better. Or actually, since we need the room, I'll just make this smaller, keep it as it is. So remember that I said 900 pixels. So we want to have a media query for that, and we can say add media screen, and then we can say and max width of 900 pixels. What we want to do now is just go ahead and go back up and grab this portion right here from the image gallery, and then go back down and select the image gallery and paste what we just copied inside of it. So in here, we just have to do some slight modifications. The first one is going to be right here. So we want to switch the 2 with IMG 1 because this time around we wanted to expand over here as well. Then this one will be number 2. Then this one can still stay the same because I wanted to keep expanding too. And remember, here we have to change it to 1 as well. It's going to break the layout for now, but it's going to get fixed as we keep switching up here the names. Then as for the 5, we can change it to 3. Now it's over here so you can see. And then I wanted to expand 2. So right over here, I can say it's going to be 3 as well. Then what I want to say is that I want to select image 4 and place it over here. And I want it to expand 2 as well. Then I'll select image 5 and I want it to expand 2 as well. So 5 and 5. Now we need to grab at least 2 more because we have more images to style. And what we'll do is just paste it down below over here. And the reason why I did the space was just so that we didn't get confused with the layout that we just created for the previous 3. So now what I want to say is that this one will be 6. Then we want image 7 right here. And we wanted to expand 3. So we'll do the same here as well for image 7. Then for the last one, I want image 8 to expand the entire row or column in this case. So what I'll do is 8, 8, 8, and 8. So now let's just get rid of the space. And as you can see, that looks a lot better. But we have to reduce the height of this image because as you can see, it's breaking the layout. So let's just go back, and under the image gallery, we can go ahead and select the image gallery A. And what I'll do here is actually reduce the size of the height for the images in general from 25 rem to 20 rem. Then I'll select the image 1. And what I want to do here is basically do the same thing that I did for the one before. Remember that back then we had 25, so the total would be 51.5 rem. In this situation, since we changed it to 20, what we want to do is basically say that it's going to be 41.5 rem instead, because we're taking away 10 rem. So for the min height, we can say that it's going to be 41.5 rem. Then what we want to do is select the image 6. And what we want to do here is just make it the same size as the images here in general. Since we did the styles on image 6 before right here, it means that it's overriding the general styles. So we have to select the image 6 again, and we want to say that the min height will be 20 rem, just like the one we have right here. And now you see that the layout is working. So if we go ahead, go into the inspector, and then the responsive view, you'll see how it changes after it hits 900 pixels. So if we keep going, we can choose the next breakpoint. In this situation, I thought the best fit would be at 600 pixels. So again, let me just minimize this. And we can go ahead and basically say that we want to grab this right here. And we're going to copy it down below. Actually, we're just going to copy it and then paste it down below. And that's just going to save us some time. And we want to change the 900 to 600. And this is going to be pretty simple now, because since this is going to be for the smaller devices, we can just simply have the images expand the entire column. So in this case, I already have the IMG here. So all we have to do is just make sure that it's going to be 1 all across. We have to make sure that we do the same thing for the other ones. So 2. And then for the third one, now the fourth one, and then the fifth one, and now we still need 3 more, so we can just go ahead and grab these right here, and we can just paste it down below. Then this one will be 6. This one will be 7. And finally, this one will be 8. And as you can see, everything is now stacking on top of each other. However, I want to make sure that I reduce this height and make it the same as the rest of them. And I'll also make the general styles for the images, as far as the height goes, bigger. So here, for the gallery items A, I'll just take this and delete it. And I can just simply add it to this right here. So I'll do a comma, and then I'll select the image 1 as well as the image 6. And what I want to do here is just increase this height to 30. And since we used a min height for the other ones, I want to make sure that I also do a min height of 30 rem. And now if I go ahead and make this bigger, and we go into the inspector, then the responsive view, you'll be able to see, let me just actually make this smaller so that we can see the whole thing. You can actually see how the layout is changing based on the width of the device. And this is basically how you create a simple layout using CSS Grid and Grid template areas. So if you guys found this video useful and maybe you learned something new, please make sure you give a thumbs up. If you still haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.